The Switch 2 is out, and with it comes a new topic for my couples counseling sessions, because I just spent over $50,000 to play a game about Italians racing bees. That's right, Mario Kart World is here, and let me tell you folks, it's pretty great. For me, it sits somewhere between Inspector Gadget Kart for the Game Boy and Crazy Frog Racing in terms of quality. But don't worry, that's pretty high praise coming from a guy like me. Up here for inspecting, down here for never wearing pants. Being a lifelong Mario Kart fan and waiting nearly 10 years for a new entry, well, a new mainline entry, it's safe to say I was pretty excited for this one. And how could I not be? Just look at the developer's track record. And now, after playing the game for over 4 days ago, I gotta say, overall, I've been having a blast. And although the game feels great to control, the presentation is fantastic, the music is by far the best it's ever been. I have to admit, there are quite a few places in the game I was hoping would leave me feeling wow! That unfortunately have kinda left me feeling Nintendo's always lived in this weird little corner of the video games industry. A lot of conversation in the broader gaming sphere focuses on what are essentially measuring competitions about fidelity and performance. Nintendo's never really been about that. In fact, when it comes to that stuff, they don't even seem to care. Much to the dismay of every single person online. Nintendo are kind of like the quiet kid in your class. You never know when, but someday you suspect they're going to hand you a note. But instead of it saying, don't come to school tomorrow, it says, don't come to school tomorrow. We're about to drop a Donkey Kong game where 3 out of the 4 buttons are just for punching. And everyone collectively just kind of goes... And rightfully so. Every time Nintendo makes a game that's for one of their main franchises, they tend to set the standard for quality in their respective genres. Just look at the Switch one's attempt at a mainline Mario game, and the Switch one's attempt at a mainline Zelda game. Yes, I know Breath of the Wild technically came out on the Wii U, but you know, did it really? But you know what the Switch one never got? Say it with me now. An original mainline Mario Kart game. Good job, you just unlocked a new kart. So to announce a new console and make the system's only launch day exclusive... You didn't let me finish. To make the system's only launch day exclusive worth playing, be the long-awaited follow-up to one of their most iconic franchises, that kinda set some expectations. And after driving around the open world for a couple days, I gotta say, I kinda expected more. My biggest issue with the game is by far the open world. Now, if we're looking at it from the perspective this was all designed by a team that's never built an open world before, then yeah, it's super impressive. But when you hear the term open world, it kinda makes you expect certain things. And when you hear the term open world Mario game, it kinda makes you expect even more. The last thing I wanted to be left with was something that felt like a glorified pre-game lobby, because if I wanted that, I'd just play 2K. Like, come on, it's an open-world racing game, it can't be that hard. Even Microsoft can make one of those. And when looking at the list of those available, they're all missing something similar, and that's a distinct vibe, personality, and charm. Qualities that all just so happen to be Nintendo's bread and butter. So you'd be forgiven when thinking when they do their spin on the genre, they're going to fill it up with so many kooky little NPCs with kooky little quests, all tied up in a kooky little story about... What's that now? They filled it with a bunch of blue buttons with the letter P on them, that when you press, you just get a 30-second minigame about collecting blue coins. Doesn't that sound fun? Doesn't that sound like something you'd want to do again and again and again? Not really, and it's too bad, because when you boil it down, that's essentially it. And it feels like just the biggest missed opportunity. Like, how is it we live in a world where an open world Mario Kart game was announced, and the only thing people seem to care about was the fact you get to play as a cow? That should have warned me. And don't get me wrong, the open world is super impressive visually. The map looks like a map for the best theme park ever designed, and the way each unique location effortlessly blends into the next is nothing short of mesmerizing. It's just that they sort of forgot to put a game in it. The world is littered with NPCs, from backpacking Yoshis to camping Toads. It's just that they don't really do anything. You can drive up to them, but all that'll happen if you do is they'll just sort of acknowledge your existence and then stare at you until you off. And I'm not saying I need it to be as living and breathing a world as Red Dead Redemption 2 or anything. I just like it to be a little more interactive is all. Even if you only take into account what's in the open world already, there are loads of little things that could have been added to make it feel more alive. You see those little Toad police cars? What if hitting one of them with a green shell made them chase after you? And you had to evade them, otherwise they'd claim a bounty on you. And what about those little Toad taxi drivers? Why not let us pick up a few fares for the poor little guy, so we can rest his poor little Toad toes? The passengers could even take you on little crazy taxi-style missions with special requirements on how to get to and where they're going. And these aren't ambitious ideas or anything, that's a separate video in itself, but are just, you know, stuff. Instead, we're just let loose to drive around the Mushroom Kingdom version of It's a Small World. But enough about the world part of the title, what about the actual Mario Karting of it all? The racing itself feels incredible. It's by far the best it's ever been. There's so much new maneuverability and freedom in the movement, it's hard to imagine ever going back to 8. The way the characters leap off of rooftops and trick backwards to face the camera is just full of the exaggerated swagger of a middle-aged union worker. It almost feels like playing on a hacked account, because some of the ways you're able to interact with these tracks feels illegal. I mean, just look at some of the shortcuts people are able to pull off, and the game's only been out for like a month. I can't wait to see how batshit some of these world records are a year from now. So what I don't understand is, why make a game that gives us all these ways to straight tear it up and make roughly 70% of the gameplay about straight driving, as in driving in a straight line, because you do it so much in this game. It's such a baffling decision to make, and the game really suffers because of it. The Grand Prix mode, for example, is always what I look forward to most in Mario Kart. 3 laps and 4 back-to-back tracks, learning every turn, perfecting every corner, then you follow all that intensity up with a big old trophy at the end. It's a perfect formula, or at least it was, because now the focus is on driving to the tracks and not on them. I don't know why they gave intermission tracks such an emphasis in Grand Prix. No one, for example, plays an F1 game for the thrill and excitement of getting to the next race. You play it to go real fast around tight corners. And for me, it's the same in Mario Kart, just with admittedly more banana peels and sexy whatever this is. It feels like such a shame that they put all this time into meticulously crafting what might be the best tracks in Mario Kart history, only to give us very minimum time to actually enjoy them. To be fair to the intermission tracks, they were fun initially, especially with the added inclusion of 24 racers. My first few times playing, the game was pure chaos in the best way, but once I got used to the controls, the majority of my playtime felt like when you'd spend time driving around GTA pretending to be an NPC, cruising amongst the traffic in first on these wide-ass roads, just waiting for a blue shell to show up and whoop-bang! What? No, I didn't pick Swimwear Daisy, it just unlocked during the race.
The problem with that, though, is that I have the transcript.
To its credit, this formula does make for a more exciting final portion of the race, because the gameplay goes from this to, you know, actually having to try. But that doesn't make up for the fact that that only equates to about a minute max of each race. When I'd finished with the Grand Prix mode, that technically meant I'd played through each track. And gun to my head, I couldn't have told you a single memorable thing about any of them. And is that partially because I have the memory of a cheap? Possibly. But it's also because my experience with them was over so quickly because they wanted me to get back to this for some reason. And again, it's such a shame, because after going back through some of them in versus mode, it seems so obvious to me that this is where the focus on the game should have been. With all that being said, will any of it stop me from playing? No, because I can think of much worse places I could be.